Oh, hello. Many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, is paper magic dead or perhaps dying? DeQuan, what do you think?
Well, it's at least dead today. COVID.
Thank you for watching. Okay, seriously, stop. Let's really talk about this because
Sure.
I think this is, first of all, it's a meme, right? Magic is dying. Magic is dying. It's been dying since 4th edition, 5th edition, 6th edition. I have a whole video making fun of that. We're not talking in those broad terms, but surely there is the concern, if nothing else, about a possible desire to transition to digital on the part of Wizards of the Coast, about a possible de-emphasis from local game stores, on a possible deconstruction of the competitive paper circuit, where competitive Magic is being pushed and shifted towards digital. Yes, we are in pandemic.
Sure.
What happens after?
Yeah, I think the first point is trying to figure out what we classify as dead or alive.
Sure.
Right? Like, because you ask one person, they'll say, it's dead because this format's no longer going to be played. Right?
Right.
Or it's dead because, I don't know, organized play is going to be 50% or more digital or whatever, right? Probably much more than 50%. But I think that's kind of the starting point for the conversation. For me, it's more of, are people still purchasing paper products? Like that to me is like the clear delineation of, is it dead or not, right? And then it's, okay, now that they're making the purchases, are they still engaging with paper activity with those things they're purchasing?
Well, I don't think people will ever stop purchasing paper products. I think that Wizards of the Coast, Wizards of the Coast is going to need to stop printing paper before people stop purchasing paper. And if people are purchasing paper, Wizards isn't going to stop printing it. They're just going to maybe raise the price on it. But
Sure.
And again, I mean, we can complain all we want, but I did buy a few VIP packs, I guess.
Fair.
Let's maybe then just start with, you said organized play shifting to more than 50% digital. Do you really think that's big? That scares me. I think organized play is the lifeblood of the kind of paper circulatory system. I think it's what gets people into local game stores. I think it's what makes cards cost money on the secondary market. Who needs fetch lands if there's no modern? I mean, come on, Commander. It's not that big. It's not that big, but that's what I mean. It's so many systems are tied to OP, and if OP goes digital.
Well, I think it really depends on what it looks like, right? We can still, I think just the way it was is probably no longer going to exist. As far as like, whether that's the store PTQs or whatever we're calling them to qualify for the regional PTQs and whatever, like that whole system probably changes, I would think. Now, what formats we play and everything else, still up for grabs, I guess. Like, who knows? There may be enough people that play enough digital historic that they try to make historic a paper format. Like, I no idea. Like, I have no idea what those numbers look like. I think there will always be some amount of paper play in organized play. I don't think you're ever going to just get rid of it.
Right.
I just think you have a lot of people that are already very comfortable playing a lot of Arena, especially right now, because it's all we can do. If you're not playing on Spell Table, playing Commander, you're really not playing much Magic. I mean, you're playing Commander, you're playing Historic, you're playing Standard.
Right.
That's kind of... Now, there is still Magic Online. There's still some people playing Modern and some stuff. I've seen some people post about it. I know they're over there playing the cube drafts. I know that's a thing.
Sure.
But you're not really seeing a lot of activity there. Nothing out of the norm. I mean, you're getting more activity of people playing Standard and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it's also like Arena's free for a lot of people. I mean, as much as we talk about like they charge for this, they charge for that, there are a lot of people that are still playing Arena for free, which definitely makes a difference there.
It seems that given the nature of the pandemic, Arena should be seeing what could be its highest ever numbers right now. I mean, surely after we emerge from this global crisis and can once again go into our, hopefully, local game stores for Friday Night Magic, dare I say Magic Fest or a GP or something like that. I mean, that's going to be a challenge, I would think, to Arena's current numbers. Maybe there's that idea of, again, a rising tide lifts all boats, and that just more people playing Magic means more people playing Magic means more people on Arena and paper. But I wonder if Wizards of the Coast is going to see an incentive to push people off of Arena, as it were, into the local game stores post-pandemic, or if they're going to just say, hey, listen, we'll keep printing it as long as they keep buying it, but as far as going any further than that, they're playing Arena, they're buying those mastery passes, God knows why, and, well, they didn't say that, but maybe they did. And so why would they be incentivized? I know why, but why would they be incentivized to say, yeah, let's try and shift our player base back into the physical space?
Well, honestly, I don't even think they've maxed out how to integrate the retail stores into the Arena pool yet. You know, like
I don't think they care to.
Well,
I
but
think
we
they-
could, but you could still do like they did with the World of Warcraft time cards. Like you can go into your place and buy your monthly membership or whatever.
Sure.
Right? You could buy gems or whatever exclusive things or whatever through your retailer.
That would
right?
be a godsend to the
Yeah,
retail stores. That would be a godsend.
Totally a thing they can still do. And I'm sure it's been discussed or being discussed, but like when is it ever going to be activated? Who knows? Right. But that's a thing that you could totally do and still keep those intertwined and interlaced, right? To encourage both sides. There's also this interesting kind of dynamic, and I've seen this as recently as a couple years ago, so I don't know about today with the pandemic and everything. But there were a lot of games that saw their digital versions come out and then board games, but then saw an increase in the paper products being sold.
Right.
So it's very possible some percentage of the player base is playing Arena now, probably still watching those clips from other tournaments or whatever, or hear people talking about paper play, and they're like, well, you know, I kind of would want to do this with other people. I may want to go check this out at a store, or maybe go to a pre-release and dip my toe in the water and see what this is about. So a lot of them are probably naturally going to migrate to paper anyway, whether Wizards really forces it or not.
Sure. But if there are no, let's say that we were talking a little bit about this before we recorded, that let's say the idea of weekly GPs just does not return. You know, we're used to those golden days where, or at least it felt like every single week, another part of the country, there's a GP going on, sometimes two,
Sure.
and you get in of the van or pack into your car with your friends from your local game store. You drive 45 minutes to where the event is being held. You try and make day two, all that good stuff. And let's say that just doesn't return post-pandemic. Maybe they do a Magic Fest Command Zone like party in Vegas, and then after that, it's like 4 months later, 5 months later, they do another sort of thing, and it turns into a little bit more of a convention. It doesn't necessarily have a main event, or the main event is not high stakes or even high incentive to play in. Without that, sure, people are still buying paper Magic, but isn't that a kind of, you know, death of at least the system we knew? Or you're just saying it's being reborn? People are going to play it differently.
I think it's just different engagement. You know, like we saw with the Command Fest events, right?
Yeah.
Those drew very well. Some of them were overbooked, you know, because there were so many people wanting to come play, and didn't really have a high stakes, you know, big cash event or whatever around them. It was just people came to play Magic, get artist signatures, you know, do all that other stuff. And it basically was a Magic convention.
But nobody plays casual standard, right? I mean,
no.
You're a standard player. Did you bring a couple standard decks with you when you drove down here?
No, I brought no decks with me. but I see your point, though.
And tomorrow when Olivia comes out, she's bringing 12 Commander decks.
Absolutely.
There's the dichotomy between the two. Standard, no, I didn't bring in standard decks. Commander decks, sure, because there isn't casual standard, there isn't casual modern. I'm a modern fanatic. I don't play casual modern. I want to play it, you know, competitively. Even though I play with my weirdo decks, I still want that competitive aspect. Even, I think, Pioneer to a lesser extent. So I think that if paper Magic continues, it might transmogrify into Commander only.
Well, I think when you see Wizards already giving invites to their top level events now through these other tournament circuits, I think that's at least, and I don't know this, like this is just me speculating, but this is basically a way for them to say, okay, what if we don't run the big events anymore?
Right.
Right? Can we have these other organizations run events and we just award invites through them?
Sure.
Because we basically already had the Star City Open Series being all of the East Coast, well, almost to Central, because they did some in Texas, but basically East Coast Magic, where they were giving away tons of money every week. They had huge attendance. You know, some of them had 600, 800 people, which is basically a small Grand Prix, you know, at that point. So who's to say that somebody like Channel Fireball doesn't step up and start doing them on the West Coast?
Yeah.
Or, one of these other organizations, Cascade Games or whoever decides they want to do some in the Midwest or whatever, right?
That'd be beautiful in all
And then
honesty.
you still have competitive Magic, all different formats, possibly every weekend, depending on where you live.
Oh, stop!
And
That's a dream, though. But that's beautiful. But it's so expensive to run. Can Channel Fireball do West Coast GP level events without Wizards backing them with their contract?
I think so. There's really a two-part deal. The first and this is all behind the scenes, that they'd have to figure out some agreement for product or at cost or whatever they need to do to make it reasonable for them, and some partnership with Wizards. But they can also run the events how they need to be maximum financially beneficial. Because no matter what, when you work with a company like Wizards or whoever it is, there's certain things you're going to be able to can and can't do, right? Based on whatever's necessary for them, or whatever certain presentation they want to have, or certain side events they don't want you to do, or whatever. When it's somebody like Star City doing their events, they're making all the money. They can do however they want to, right? And the end result is just run the tournament, give away these prizes. And I don't think I'm speaking too much out of turn here, but one of the biggest benefits for these stores to even run these series is just access to people.
Yeah.
Both to acquire inventory and to sell inventory.
Of course.
So they're still encouraged to do it regardless of what the absolute, end result is for the tournament itself. It's really a big marketing vehicle just to encourage people to interact with your business.
Of course, because the end of any type of competitive circuit at all would be the end in many ways of Star City Games, maybe Channel
Absolutely.
Fireball, because again, you don't need to buy cards for Standard if you're not playing Standard. What about Draft? Do you feel, to change gears a little bit, Draft to me used to be the lifeblood of Magic the Gathering. Everybody I knew drafted. Everything was around Draft. All Wizards cared about was Draft. And again, we're talking in the height of a pandemic. Nobody is drafting because you cannot for health reasons. But I feel like even pre-pandemic, Draft was on a very steep decline, and that people have lost interest in Draft. Draft has a very symbiotic relationship in many ways with Standard.
To a point, yeah. And I think you're right. I think we get caught up sometimes because a lot of the people that enjoy drafting are part of the vocal minority. Right. So you see people like, how can you hate on Draft? Draft is such amazing, and limited is this. And it's like, well, yeah, but walk into the average store and ask them, what is your attendance like for your Commander nights, for your Standard stuff, for your pre-releases, compared to your Draft nights?
But that's the thing. Draft used to be Draft was number one, right? I mean, how long ago was it when you ran your store?
Well, here's a good example, though. With my store, we would get drafts off like once every 4 weeks.
No.
Yeah.
How long ago was this?
This was as recent as like 5 years ago.
That's not recent.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But even
I got
then,
news for you. You're old. No.
Yeah, I know I'm old. Like that's a whole different topic. But I'm saying even then, and it's something we actively pushed and tried to do.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of markets where people just want to play their constructed formats, whether that's Standard, Commander, whatever. But conversely, there was a store that was about 20 minutes from us south, where all they could do is get drafters, and no constructed formats got played.
Right.
So it's just like, it's really different store to store.
Yeah. No, my old LGS Draft was king. I mean, people would literally, it was so popular that the owner had a policy, was that if you could get 8 people together at any time that the store was open, he would fire off a draft with full prize support, and he would do so from whatever set the 8 people would buy into. He'd pop open. One time they got 8 people together for Lorwyn, and he's like, sure, but Lorwyn, he calculated the price, and he said in order to do a Lorwyn with full prize support in Lorwyn packs, it would be X per person, and they got 12 people together, and he was like,
if people want to show out or whatever,
happy, and he had some leftover packs to sell loose, and he did good business. Draft was king, and then everybody's got your leftover draft pieces, and that helps feed into Standard. You buy the more pieces or trade for the more pieces you need. And it just feels like everywhere now is what your store was experiencing. I think a big thing that happened was with so many specialty sets and master sets where draft was $40, $50, even $60 a draft, that a lot of the fanatics just got depleted and exhausted and kind of fell to the wayside, and that began this decline of draft, or possibly a quality issue.
Well, I think it's a little bit too, it speaks to the other formats, right? Where there were a lot of competitive events. Like we're talking about, there was the Star City stuff, there was the Grand Prix, there's whatever, right? So there was a lot of 60 card format being played that people were focusing on. And then you've also had the rise of Commander
Right.
over the last 4 or 5 years heavily, with more channels talking about Commander, more articles being written. Hell, we got a whole year of Commander from Wizards,
Yeah.
And I think those two things have really kind of pushed draft down a little bit because the competitive people have other focuses and the casual people are like, oh, well, I could just buy these 3 or 4 other foils I need to foil out my Commander deck, or I could go booster draft.
Right.
Right. And obvious what most of them are going to choose, right?
Mhm.
Being the most casual players. So I think draft will still exist. I think it's still going to be around, but I think it's definitely just going to be lesser because people right now that are getting into Magic aren't getting that opportunity to even understand what draft is, see the
Mhm.
excitement of it, see how much people enjoy it. They're all getting acclimated to some constructed format,
Right.
whatever it happens to be right now.
And we saw the release this year of set boosters,
Yeah.
booster packs that are not meant for draft. What are your thoughts on set boosters? Do you
I'm
like
a
them?
set booster
Yeah,
guy.
you are.
I'm a set booster guy, mostly because I don't personally need to buy boosters just to draft.
Sure.
I'm okay going to a place and saying, cool, I'll pay you my 10 or 12 bucks and participate in a booster draft, right? Or if I go to a friend's place, like, sure, I'll split the cost of your booster box with you and we can draft, right? But if I'm getting stuff for myself just to crack open, I just want the quality singles so I can put them into my decks, whether it's standard or commander.
You're right.
So it doesn't really matter to me that the product isn't built for draft or isn't draftable or whatever. Plus, there's like the weird, cool collectibles they're sticking in there too.
Right.
So that's just a bonus. So for me, yeah, I'm definitely a set booster person.
I think they can improve the ratios more. I mean, that's all. There's no level they could improve them to that I wouldn't say, hey, just a little bit more. But I do like that. 1 in every 4 packs, you're probably going to get a non-standard card. Maybe that'll be a good card. We talked about that in another episode. But I think that it is disconcerting to see what was once such a lifeblood of paper play become such an afterthought and literally have a new product designed, if not to replace it, then to be a very strong alternative to it.
Well, one of the funny things is I do one of my 18 projects. I'm on another show called Supreme Verdict. And it's me, Brian David Marshall, Monty DeVuti, and usually a guest. But we get to talking about different stuff at times. And one of the things BDM threw out, he said, well, what if we bring back Rochester draft? Because it's the most safest way to draft post-COVID.
Right.
I'm like, well, you're not wrong.
Get it on spell table.
Yeah, probably not going to happen. But it's a funny thought, though, right? Like it's something we could introduce. But, I could be wrong. Let's say we do get to a world where everybody's got their vaccines. We're going back into game stores. And enough of these people go like, well, I've heard about draft. Or people talked about it with the Commander Legends thing, but I didn't get to draft it or whatever.
Right.
Like, let me try that out. And maybe some people like it as a change of pace because all they've known is constructed Magic to this point.
Yeah. I think the problem is that as Wizards is signaling and demonstrating that what they want to do is find the new ceiling on product pricing.
Sure.
Remember, this is the year of the $100 booster pack. That is in an extreme contrary nature to drafting, which once you get above, I really feel strongly, once you get above $4 packs, it's tough to get drafts going. And that's, Battle Bond and Conspiracy were $4 packs. And so, or maybe they were 5, but that's still 4, 5, 6. But when you're at $14.99 double masters, if it had not been pandemic, I don't think many people would have been firing off drafts of that. And I think that Wizards is like, so you want us to make more products for less, or we could make more products for more and they'll still sell.
Yeah, I mostly agree with that. I give a little more leeway to the price per booster that people are willing to draft. I think, like I said, I think you can go up to like somewhere in that $6, $7 range, keep drafts at like $25, $30 entry for people, whatever, to give away some decent prizes. I think there's enough people willing to pay that. I think the problem is when we start talking about $10 plus for a booster, and then your drafts all start becoming $40 plus or whatever to make sure there's prizes in the pool or whatever. I think that gets real hard for people. I think maybe it's just a subconscious thing, but I've watched people do the math and go like, ooh, it's north of $30. Like, I don't know if I can do that, And because at that point you start saying, okay, what am I going to open from these packs versus can I just buy the singles I need, right? Or if I'm gonna open stuff, wouldn't I rather just open it and keep everything instead of like maybe get one good card for the draft and I have to give up this cool foil I open or something? You know, like they don't want to have to be faced with that decision.
Right.
And I've seen people do that, especially from, like Masters boosters or where when they're drafting and they open, say, like a Termagoyf and a foil Liliana or whatever.
Right.
And they're just like, well, I'm just not going to draft. And they've just literally picked up their stuff and left, which I sort of get it, right? When you're saying, like, I just opened like $150, like, what do I do with this? You know?
I remember Goyfgate. I remember Goyfgate.
Yeah. So, and I get why an average player or a casual player for sure would want to do that because
Or professional player.
well, yeah, it did happen with the professional player, but they're not invested on any level, right? So they're just like, cool, I just want the cards to have the cards,
Right.
And I think that's the mindset of a lot of the players. It's not, well, I'm doing this for the experience and to hang out with my friends and meet new people at my local store, and but it's really just I just want the cards.
I can relate. I do just want the cards. Hypothetically, can Paper Magic or Magic the Gathering survive on Commander alone? If everything somehow fell to the wayside, all our events are Command Fests. Did you make it to one of the 3 Command Fests?
I showed up to the one that was up here. I didn't really hang out very long because it was oversold.
Okay.
And,
you got an idea of what.
Yeah, I was trying not to be part of the problem.
But like, imagine if like that is like, again, no main event GP for Standard. It's Command Fests only. Commander only. The products are Commander. It's all based on Commander. The reprints are not about what Modern needs. It's about what Commander needs. Can Commander alone, and I know there would always be some other orbiting things, but hypothetically, could Commander alone sustain the game?
I want to say no.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Not without there being an entire overhaul to everything, right? We would have to talk about changing yearly releases, how we design sets. You would have to change an entire, the whole hierarchy of everything would have to be blown up, right? I don't think there's a way we could do it with our existing mindset as far as how things look, how 4 releases a year for Standard or whatever, like all of that would have to be shaken up. Like, could it? Maybe, but I wouldn't give it a high shot. I think you need to have ways for people to engage with Magic on different levels. That's one of the things I've always said about Magic that's great is you can find a way to play Magic you enjoy, right? Maybe you don't have a lot of time and you have a really tight budget. You can just build a cube and you draft once a month with your friends on your like off Friday night or whatever, right?
Right.
Maybe you always have Saturdays free. So you go to your local store and you play some weekend Saturday Standard tournament, right? Or maybe you're, like you're saying, just booster drafting with some people at your house because, you got kids at home. You can't leave the house or whatever.
Sure.
You have your man cave and your buddies come hang out in your poker room or whatever and booster draft, right? And having all those options available, I think, is one of the things that's made Magic unique when we compare it to a lot of these other games.
Yes.
That have never gotten to that next level or have only been around for 2 to 5 years and they're gone.
Right.
Because there's usually just one way to engage, maybe 2 with a lot of those products.
Yeah. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has no multiplayer or even multitude of formats. Pokemon TCG doesn't have a multiplayer. I was just talking with some Pokemon pros casually the other day, and I was like, how would multiplayer work? And they didn't have an answer for me. There isn't even a way set up in the
there's no clean way to do it. Like I've looked at it in the past to try because even with other games when I had my business, it was just like, well, if I could find a way to do this differently, maybe we start a thing and people think it's really cool. But for most games, there's just no way to do it.
Right.
I mean, it just the rules don't function comfortably to alternate turns or maybe share resources or whatever you have to do. Just doesn't work.
Yeah, and that is one of the great things. I mean, as I was saying to you, I used to play Standard every Friday, and then I got to a point where I got less interested and eventually fell off of it. But I not only didn't stop playing Magic, I probably played Magic more because I fell from Standard into Modern and fell in love with Modern. I fell from Modern into Commander and Pauper. I was acquiring by falling out of love with Standard and quitting Standard entirely. I ended up buying more Magic product.
There you go.
Engaging with the game more, engaging with creators more, starting my YouTube channel, all of this stuff because of the fact that there's so many different ways to play and enjoy and love this game. And so whatever, I'm sure there were discussions at the height of draft about if only Magic were draft. Think about how lucrative this is to the company. People come in, They give you money, they open their packs, and then as far as within that contained system is concerned, they don't need those cards anymore. And just throw them away and just buy again. It's like a disposable thing.
But the rest of the system crumbles.
Right, of course.
You know, as far as your
need the rest
stores,
of
your
it. You
singles,
need
your whatever.
a place for those
Yeah.
cards. It doesn't work that way if you just throw them away.
Yeah, but I think what you spoke to is why you need those different formats, right?
Right.
Where you're saying, I quit playing this because for whatever reason I got burnout, or I didn't like the format at the time, or whatever. Or my schedule changed, so I found a different way to engage when people were together on a Wednesday night instead of a Friday night. Whatever it is, like having those options allows you to do that. Especially even now during the pandemic. It's like I've played some Spell Table and played Commander with some people.
Yeah.
You know, I can still engage with Paper Magic because I am able to play Commander. And then if I want to play Standard, I just go pop open Arena. Right. So I still have those options depending on what's going on. But if I only have one of them, then I lose some interaction with the game, which opens up the door for me to go do something else.
Right.
And I know people don't want to think about it that way, but that's business, right?
Absolutely.
And one of the biggest mistakes I think people make is everybody wants to compare Magic to Pokemon or Magic to Hearthstone or whatever. But the reality is Magic is entertainment.
Right.
And you're competing, not right now, but normally with like movie theaters,
right?
You know, with your Netflix at home.
You're not competing with movie theaters.
But I mean, you know, going out and hiking or your rec game, rec league, wherever you're at, right? Those are all part of that pool that Magic gets some time of.
Yes.
Right. So if you had these other formats, people can find time to slide Magic into their schedule.
Yeah.
But if there's only one option, and some people may only have one option locally, maybe you have a small store and they only play one format, right? That becomes more difficult and you lose a lot of those players. But, you know, fortunately, we're each in a larger city or, you know, larger metro area that we can find players, you know, during normal time. We can go find players at multiple stores if we want to engage however we want on any day of the week.
Oh, yeah. And all kinds of stuff. In San Francisco, there was a popular spot. It was a bar that had a small Indian restaurant, like in an alcove of it. And one day a week, it was a famous spot where everybody got together to draft, and they even had judges, and they organized rankings, and they had pods of beginner, intermediate, expert. And you'd go in, you'd get a beer, you'd get a plate of curry, and you'd draft. And they kept their own. They had their own little ranking system and scoring system. And there's a million stories like that I've heard from across the country, across the globe, of out of game store locations that people would get together. Again, it comes down to that idea of the gathering being what's magic about Magic. The gathering, which Arena really lacks, especially with no chat or social features. You're not going to make any friends on Arena.
And that's tough because I don't think you can realistically have the chat and have it be a fun environment.
Well,
you know, because here's the story I've told people. Like, this was sometime within the last 2 years. I decided I was going to start because I'd been watching some people play Teamfight Tactics, right? And I'm like, well, this sounds kind of interesting, and the whole auto chess style game. Like, let me check this out.
Yeah.
And then you know you have to boot up the League of Legends client to be able to play Teamfight Tactics. I'm like, well, let me just see what I still have on my League of Legends account and maybe hop into a game for old time's sake. Before I even got out of the lobby and into the game, I was like, yeah, I remember why I didn't do this.
Right.
So I get it. Like we don't need chat in our games. Like there's too many people that don't know how to act. Like as my grandmother would say, some people act like they don't have home training. You know, so like that takes that out of play. So it definitely does make it a little more difficult in Arena to really meet people and engage people. You almost have to become part of these different communities, whether it's on like Discord or through people's like Facebook groups or whatever. And really that's how you kind of have to meet people right now. Because you can't go to your local store and engage, or an event even, and meet people.
Yeah.
Now, one of the other things I would say was, how safe do you feel going back? Like when would you feel safe? What conditions would have to be met to get you back to organized play?
Honestly, I can see a point where I would go into a small event at a local game store. I could see that in the future. I honestly, and I'm being completely honest here, and you're going to say this is outrageous, broad strokes exaggeration, but I'm serious. I do not believe I will ever set foot at a GP or Magic Fest again. I as of today, I feel that way. And maybe this new vaccine is going to convince me otherwise, but I don't have confidence in it. I do not see 2 years from today, you telling me we are going to have GP Vegas with that setup, that situation, that thing is a plague factory
Oh,
before
yeah,
COVID.
With 6,000 people?
That
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
was a plague factory before the plague
Sure.
already. I'd come out of there and have the flu for 10 weeks, you know? So even with a vaccine, even with reopening of businesses and stuff, the idea of a large-scale convention in a sealed, circulated air environment with a large number of people who, let's be fair, maybe don't have the best hygiene.
Oh, sure. That's a different video.
Treatment and aren't washing their hands. And there's no way. I have said to myself, you will never set foot at a GP or Magic Fest like it was again. Could there be some new creation? Of course. Could I go back to a Friday Night Magic where there's 7 other people that I know that are wearing face masks, that have washed their hands, we're in an open enough space that I feel comfortable enough sitting across from and playing paper Magic? Yes. But a GP or Magic Fest, for me personally, I do not believe I will ever see the likes of that again.
I don't think that's that far-fetched for a lot of people, though.
No,
especially with everything
sure,
going on right now, right?
No.
Like, and you know, we're still talking about people that are immunocompromised. You know, there's a lot of other issues going on, people, other than just I don't want to get sick. You know, there's a bunch of real problems there. And I think for me, it's really just how well do I think something like the vaccine is going to be adopted, right? Like, even if it works, you know, they're saying, you know, initial tests say there's 90% success rate, blah, 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 all this stuff. But there's still a lot of people who are like, I'm not taking a vaccine.
Yeah,
right?
People don't take vaccines now.
Well,
people
yeah.
Don't inoculate their children, for God's
Sure.
sake.
And that becomes part of the problem, right? If I do show up to an event, even though I have it, like, but how many people around me do or don't have it?
Right.
And, you know, so I think I'd have to see, for me personally, just more national stats on, like, you know, has at least like 75% of the population taken it or whatever, you know, or is it at least, you know, 80% is widely circulated as like a flu vaccine or what? I don't know. I'd have to see some really convincing numbers to make me okay with it. Now, I'm willing to go to my local stores because I know the owners. I see the steps they're taking.
Right.
You know, like, so if they're like up to 20 people or so or whatever on a Saturday and want to play Magic, like, I would probably feel okay with that in the future. Like, seeing, especially right now, seeing the steps. And granted, this is being up here in the Pacific Northwest. This is not, you know, no hate for any of my friends and family back in Texas, but y'all are messing up right now. Like, just being real about it. Hey, and I mean, hell, I saw pictures from Austin on Halloween on 6th Street, and it just looked like you'd have no idea there was anything going on. I mean, it looked like Mardi Gras, just wall-to-wall people. And I was like, yeah, this is why we're going to have a problem.
We got zero. We're in a big residential neighborhood. My home is in, like, just trick-or-treat heaven. Not one, and we shut off our lights, but all the light, we looked. All the lights. We had a little Halloween party with my son. We got a pizza. We watched some appropriate films and did our own little candy thing and stuff. But, you know, I looked out at the street out of curiosity. All the lights were off. And I was saying, well, you know, oh God, is it going to feel awkward if someone comes to the door? Not one knock at the door.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
You know, even when we talk about getting back to big events, it's going to come down to the organizers. Like, you know, what precautions are you taking?
Right.
You know, like, is everybody required to wear a mask or use gloves? Is there, you know, a sanitizer station for every 6 tables? Or, like, you know, I don't know what rules we need to make up to make everybody feel safe, but there's definitely going to be changes. I mean, we're not going back to the way we were, whether people wanted to or not. It's just not going to be. You might start getting disqualified from events for taking your mask off. Like, I don't even know, right?
Yeah.
Like, that might be a thing.
Wow.
So at least for the first, I would assume at least the first year of big events when we get back to it, till everybody says, okay, we're far enough past this that it's okay now. But I think it's going to take a while for people to make that big adjustment.
And this is why I feel especially that the future of paper Magic, and I do believe, like, in answer to our question, I don't think paper's going anywhere, but it is changing, of course. But it's changing. And I think that as someone who does not believe in a return to those big weekly GPs ever again, or any time in my lifetime, or the next 10 years at least, which is what I consider my Magic lifetime until I'm a senior citizen or whatever. I think the future is in the small. I think the future is in those small stores, and that Magic to be played in paper as it must be played, as it needs to be played, as we want to play it, that the outlets are going to be more and more venues that can accommodate 8, to 16 people in a controlled environment where people can be made given assurances of safety and safety protocols, and that's the sort of thing where you say to me a year from tonight, hey, GP Vegas, I'd say no way, but you say to me a year from tonight, hey, right down here at wherever, Mike's in Pacifica, California, Anime Imports, check it out, that, the gang is showing up and we're gonna, have a modern event and it's 8 people or whatever, and 7 of them, sure. I could see being jazzed about going down to that.
Well, speaking about local stores, one of the things, because, again, I speak to retailers all
Right.
the time, just from past life stuff. And one of the things they have learned to do during this whole pandemic is how do they leverage their business without organized play?
Yeah.
Not saying they don't want it. They all want it to return. But they're realizing, okay, well, do I need to have 50% of my square footage dedicated to these tables and chairs? Right? A lot of them have said, well, even if we come back, we're going to shrink this by half.
Right.
And we're going to fill this with retail product or something we can display or whatever, something that we can leverage to online sales or whatever it is, because we found ways to make money and still be solvent during this time without organized play. Now organized play just becomes a bonus. It doesn't become mandatory. And one thing I think players are going to hate about that is there were a lot of stores that were running organized play almost at break even or a loss in a lot of cases. They were doing these events that were like $5 entry or $10 entry, but you're giving away 15% more than you took in just to have butts in the seats and hope you sell enough snacks, sodas, sleeves, or whatever along the way. Yeah, that's what you're hoping on, right? But now they don't have to do that. Like they have found ways to say like, well, we were doing this, but now we're just making more money. So if we bring this in, this needs to be profitable or we can turn this into retail space, right? And I know players are going to hate that, but it's like, well, those super cheap draft you were playing in or whatever, well, now they're going to have normal entry fees.
Yeah. A lot of players really don't get that when their local store had like a 16, 24 person, draft night, that the store was losing money on that in isolation. If they did it right, your numbers, I mean, you used to run your own store, but those are exactly the numbers of what I always felt made for a good event, is that when the store is putting in about 10 to 15% into the event in terms of prizes and support and such, that always made for a really nice event. But the hope is that you go up and you say, let me see that foil folder, and go through and go, I need to foil out my standard. Because, and this is different, of course, from store to store, but overwhelmingly, it is usually singles are one of the biggest profit margins on stores, especially if they do it right. When you, like, if you say to a store owner, and I've asked this question, let's say I got $100 I'm going to spend no matter what. Would you like me to spend $100 on sealed product, $100 on accessories like sleeves and deck boxes, $100 on other stuff, or $100 on singles? And they'll always say singles, buy the singles, $100 on the singles.
I think
is the best return.
For a lot of stores, I think it's singles. I think there are some though that they get into this weird race to the bottom on like TCG Player or whatever.
Yeah.
And then singles become less profitable for them. So then they're gonna be like, well, I'd rather just buy these sleeves because I make like 40% margin on those versus like the 25% selling you these cards.
Right.
But yeah, I think most of the time it's gonna be singles.
Yeah.
I think that's a big key step though. I think people are gonna have to get adjusted to is the events, even at the local level, are gonna look very different. And your store is not going to be incentivized to run these crazy low price, just non-profitable events, because they don't have to. Like some people, and honestly, I would almost venture to guess, well, at least so far from what I've seen in my experience, several of those stores that did do that are already gone.
Yeah.
Because one of the things people don't know is in the game industry, it's very low barrier to entry, right? So you can start with, you can get a 10 grand loan or something, go find another store selling some old shelves or whatever, and get into a spot that's, I don't know, 1,000 square feet or whatever. And you can run a game store, right? You're going to be literally bootstrapping it like, month to month, but you can do it.
Right.
And those stores are the ones that are going, well, okay, well, I have to do this as low as cost as possible because I need butts in the seats to hope this other thing happens. But I think the smarter business people went, well, I'm dedicating employees to this. Like I'm not running something else that's profitable to have you in here doing this thing. I'm keeping things on the shelf that I could be getting more margin on just to appease y'all that I'm not getting any money from. Well, now the smarter stores are just going like, yeah, we've been doing this better longer, and this is why we're still open. And this also becomes the example, right? So the people that were already doing it right, they're still open. The people that were struggling, well, they're already gone.
let's say I was Wizards of the Coast and I came to you, I hired you as my professional consultant, and I said, this is what I want you to tell me your recommendation on for this to achieve this. We're out of pandemic, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And we want to do something that is the best way to support paper at local game stores. What is one of the top things we should do to help? It's like we want to give a shot in the arm sort of thing. We want to make sure that that as people come out of pandemic, they choose to come out to the game store and pick up paper Magic again. What is something that Wizards can do besides nothing at all to see this happen? Give free product to the stores, give a better deal on product to the stores, do a special promo program. What do you think?
Okay, let me start by saying, like, for as much as people talk about, paper Magic going away, or Wizards trying to kill retail stores or whatever, Wizards has actually been probably one of the best, I would arguably say the best game company to retail stores during the pandemic. As far as making the mystery boosters available to them for free,
right?
Producing extra promo cards to try to get people to pre-order things and come in and buy things and whatever. Like, other companies aren't doing that level of support right now. So for as much as it's easy to bust on Wizards for different things. And one of the things I try to tell people is, if we're going to call out bad behavior, we also have to reward the good behavior. So at least give them credit for that, in the sense that they have done a lot during these last 9 months. While people were struggling. And Magic has been one of the best sellers for a lot of these stores during this time, surprisingly, when there's not organized play. Now, going forward, I think better communication about stuff would be great. Even this weekend, there's stores going like, well, what can and can't we sell this weekend? Can we sell them like 3 packs or 4 packs of Commander Legends to draft with, or does it have to be 6 or blah, blah? Like, nobody knows, right? They're still trying to figure that out, which is all kinds of silly. So better communication there. I think also the rewards for players, and not player rewards. Different problem.
I'd be all in favor of them bringing back player rewards.
I can go on a whole explanation as to why player rewards are not coming back, if anybody ever wants to hear that at some point. But to me, it's more about finding ways for stores to reward more players, right? Because your average player is not going to do well enough to get the best prize. Like, we know that. And as much as it's cool to get the prize booster, because a lot of stores are doing like the top 1, 2, or 3 places and like one random one, depending on, the size of the store, how many they get or whatever.
Yeah.
But a lot of players will never see one of those. There's people that have been going to stores even before the pandemic who had been coming in for several months and have never opened a prize booster.
Right.
And they probably weren't going to. So get back to where we're doing just like, hey, send stores like 6 copies of an F&M card or 8 copy or whatever it was, right? Let's let the Timmies of the world, come in, try to draft or try to play standard for the first time and still get something in their hand to go home with.
I agree with that.
Let more promotions happen where it's like, hey, come in during the month of December, buy a thing, here's this cool card we'll give you.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I talked about on my podcast. I genuinely thought, if we didn't hear about a reprint of the fetch lands, I thought we were going to have them as a holiday promotion.
Yeah.
Like, just say, hey, we're going to do some blind packs. There's 1 in each one. Buy a booster box at your local store. Get a fetch land.
They almost did that, if you think about it, with a box topper in every Zendikar box. That is a 10 of them are fetch lands out of 20 cards.
Yeah, it's close.
So what is that? 10? That's 1 out of 2?
Yeah.
Is that 1 out of 2? I'm an Englishman.
Yeah. So that's close. 50% odds.
50% odds. So that's 50% chance at a fetch land for buying a box is. That's better odds than an expedition in Battle for Zendikar. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I definitely agree with the promo thing. I know that when they were supporting, and this was about 5 years ago, so this might have been happening while you had your store going. I know that when they were trying League and they were really pushing League for a while, it was when they were sending a lot of promos. Everyone at my store loved League. You go in, you've got your League deck that you keep at the store. You go, I'm looking for a game. I got to play a person. If I lose, I get 1 point still. And if I win, I get 2 points. And a certain number of points get me, I just got to generate a certain number of points within a season. Yeah. They've got really cool promos. I loved Game Day which I wish they would bring back, because everybody who attended game day got a full art card.
Yeah.
And if you top 8'd, you got a foil full art card. And if you won, you got the playmat. And I felt that's just the perfect distribution. Everybody gets something cool. There's incentive to try and make top 8, which is doable. And then if you do happen to win, that does feel special. You got your Champio.
Yeah, the Champio mats.
I won. That's my greatest claim to fame.
I think I have 2 Champio mats around the house.
I got a Champio play mat.
Yeah.
There's great stuff. And it was always
By the way,
packed.
for those who don't know what Champio is, they, for some reason, stylized the word champion to the lower right of the playmats, but the end was cut off. So I don't know why. So it just says Champio and not champion.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I loved it. Champio. And I won Game Day Dark Ascension with my mono red deck, reverberating a goblin grenade off of a goblin arsonist from M12, and I loved it. And those are the sort of things that I think get people in there. Another one, do you remember what they did with Duels of the Planeswalkers? You had to go into your store to get the code.
Yeah, you print off the code and you bring the little thing in.
You get a little physical card as well. And the physical card was like a promo of Scavenging Ooze or a dragon or an angel and stuff. That got so many people into the stores. And to do something like that with Arena, hey, go in. And that's how you get your mastery pass. That's how you get gems. That's how you, something, maybe not all gems, but a special sleeve or a special art of a card, a special package. You got to go in and pick it up at the game store, and that's all you'd have to do. And I don't feel digital is what is the death of paper Magic at all. But I do feel that Wizards needs to just give us a little bit and just say, you know what? We're going to make something that matters, not something superfluous, but something that matters, that you have to pick up at your local game store for Arena, and it's got a card in it, a paper card in it, and that creates the melding of everything.
But we need to also not overcomplicate it. You know, like you're saying about the Duel of Planeswalker stuff, right? The first couple were just come get the card, right? And I think it was like a Garrick one time. It was like a
Scavenging Ooze, alternate art was
But then the last round of them were like these little packs.
Yeah.
And it was like, why?
And what's in them?
Yeah, like why is there a pack? Like just the people are getting them for one card. Just make the one card, right? Save yourself money, and this can go even further, and we can take care of more players, right? The game day thing was kind of cool. It was weird because some stores complained because they weren't getting attendance, and it was a thing they had to schedule. And then once it went away, everybody's like, "We want game day back," you know. So it's kind of like a weird thing there. I don't know how to treat that one really. But you know, even these other promos they've made along the way during the pandemic, it was like, well, this one's for just this activity, this one's for this activity. It's like, okay, well, why are they coming out all at the same time? Let's spread them out so we can message one thing. Just say, all right, this month, come to your store, do this activity, get this thing. Maybe next month it's buy the specific product, get this thing, you know, or whatever. And then it's easier to communicate, I think is the big deal there. Yeah, I think once you get into that space of like you're saying with League, one of the problems is like, okay, well, we're doing it, but you want to push a certain play activity. So if the store didn't necessarily do, let's say, a lot of draft or sealed, well, they weren't that excited to do League. But it's like, why do we really stop them? As long as they're doing something that encourages pack purchases, I don't care how you do it.
Right.
You know, like as long as it's helping generate more pack sales, that should be the only requirement, right? Whether it's maybe you're playing, I don't know, Modern, but you know, part of the entry fee is every week everybody has to put in $3 or $4 for, you know, the prize pool or whatever. And, you know, cool. This is going into the pool this week. This is our league night. Everybody comes and plays. Right? Whatever the store needs to do, but just prove, hey, give us a write-up of your system or how you do it, and we just verify that you're selling packs. So the goal can still be to move product, but not necessarily shoehorn people into just playing this way only. You know, as long as you're getting people active and engaged and motivated, I think that's the biggest thing, more than anything else.
Absolutely. Okay, so paper Magic isn't dying, and Wizards isn't going to stop making it. Where we are in pandemic, when do you think that we are going to once again be able to go down and pick up paper and play?
You know, the optimistic part of me wants to say sooner rather than later, but the realist part of me says at best, maybe around the D&D release next summer, which would be July. You know, so, and that's if, you know, and
you are such an optimist.
No, I'm saying, and that's a best case scenario. And that's talking about like, you know, we see the numbers come down on COVID cases.
Right.
We get this vaccine maybe in February or March and, you know, whatever. Like, we're still a ways away. I get that people are saying, hey, we want to get back to our stores. And don't get me wrong, I want the game stores to be able to make
Oh, I
money
do.
because
It's
I
my-
like going to game stores.
My favorite thing to do is go to a game.
Yeah,
store.
absolutely.
Favorite thing.
And we're just not there. I mean, we I think this past week we had a record like a 1.1 million cases or something, whatever the ridiculous number was. So we're not even close, at least here in the US. We have a long way to go. And like I said, best case next summer, realistically, it might be beginning of 2022.
Yeah.
Before we organize, have sanctioned to organize play again.
When does flu season typically end in the U.S.? When do we consider flu season to be over? Like March, February?
Around February, I
Or
think.
March.
I'd have to double check that, but I know they
I'd say
start
March 2022 is the earliest I could conceive of. Like, let me put it this way: right when mystery boosters came out, my former local game store, Anime Imports in Pacifica, California, where Mike runs events where he absolutely loses money on the event. He was doing this was right when lockdowns were starting, and he was like, "I am just going to do this like 8-person distance, like attempt at a draft," and it was a great deal. And I tweeted out, "Hey, if you're in Pacifica, this is going on," and immediately I got 80 replies saying, "You should not be encouraging people right now to go out." And I was like, "Hey, you're right. Sorry, I'm deleting this. I thought like this was okay." So my criteria, what I'm getting at, my criteria is when would I be safe, me, literally the professor, to tweet, "There's a great deal on a draft going on. You should go check it out if you're in the area," and not be shamed into deleting it for the safety of my fellow countrymen. And so I could not see myself tweeting out, "Hey, there's a draft going on at Anime Imports," until March of 2022 without feeling like, I don't know if I should be tweeting out like, "Hey, if you're in the area, go check out this draft," until March of 2022. And even then I feel skeptical. I'm an English major, skeptical about it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I really don't blame you. I mean, and it's tough because I think when people have heard me talk about this before, they're like, "Oh man, why do you got to be so negative?" Or I was like, "No, I'm just being real. I want people to be safe." Because the worst thing that can happen is if you go to your local store and things get traced back to them, that could be a death knell for their business.
Well, the worst thing that could happen is you go to your local store and you get COVID.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying that's the worst.
I'm saying as far as their business,
sure,
encouraging them to run events.
No,
if they end up being the hotspot, or we do contact tracing and it comes back to their business, they don't want that mark on them. Like that could destroy a business.
Yeah,
especially a small business where you're already struggling as it is.
Yeah. Look at your local game stores anyway to see if they are offering things like curbside pickup. If there are other safe ways that you can support your local game store. They're still in business during this time.
Yep.
They may not be running events, nor should they, but they are still selling product and trying to do business with you. Check out their social media and just ask, "Hey, if I want to pick up a box, how do you guys do this?" And they'll be like, "Well, mask is mandatory. You come in, you call in advance, you have your order, we'll have it waiting for you there. We're all wearing masks," that sort of thing. Communicate with your local game store, but I don't foresee events at my local game store anytime soon.
Yeah, a lot of them have started really upping their online game. A lot of them move a lot of more inventory online. Some of them have started Facebook stores, which a lot of them were like, "That's a thing we can do." So you're seeing that.
The curbside pickup's great. I don't know if you've done it yet. I've done a lot of curbside pickup because I like to support the local stores, and it's actually kind of convenient for me to just be like, "Yep, I'm here," and then walk out, mask, roll down the window, put it right on in my back seat. It's been paid for over the phone. Have a great day, and then I get home and they threw in a promo.
Oh yeah, I've done where you show up to a store, they have a table right outside the door, they sit it on there, you verify everything's in there, they give you the thumbs up through the window. I've gone to one where they're limiting guests at 2 at a time.
You can go in.
So you go in. My order's already set there. They just ring me up. I pick it up and go. There's another where you can go shop. Where they actually have it. They restructured their whole space actually, where you can walk in and you go straight to the bathroom. They have it open. You wash your hands and everything right there, and then you come into the rest of the store, and everything's kind of separated with the plexiglass and all that. So stores are trying a lot of different things. So I mean, it is safe to go buy something as long as you're not lingering in the store.
Mhm.
If you're on a short visit. But yeah, I'm doing everything right now to really support my local stores, and a lot of them, I'm not even seeing that big of a price difference on a lot of products, partly because of product scarcity.
Yes.
So there's not a huge price, maybe a $10 difference between buying it through one of the big vendors or TCG Player or whatever versus just buying from my local store. So yeah, I'm just like, hey, send them a message on Facebook. Hey, I want to pre-order this, this, and this. How do I pay you for it? Or I just go by their website, put in the pre-order, make sure it's verified, and still supporting my local stores where I can.
Absolutely.
All the product I've opened on my channel in the last 6 months has all come from local stores. Actually, probably since the beginning of the pandemic, actually, have all come from local stores. I don't think I've gotten anything online that wasn't from a local store that I didn't open.
I almost always product on my channel, like people are like, "Is you really going down?" When I say when I do the booster box game, oh, absolutely, I go down and I get it at my local store. Very, very, very rarely do I obtain it through other means. Support your local game store, and speaking of your YouTube channel, support your local Magic the Gathering content creator. DeQuan, thank you so much for coming out here today. If people would like to find you and more of the content that you create, and it is excellent content, I will link it in this video's description, but where can they find you?
Pretty much everywhere at PowrDragn, PowrDragn, on Twitch, on Twitter, on YouTube. And we have a podcast called Color of Magic you can check out, and a new weekly show called Supreme Verdict that I get to do with a couple other people. So yeah, stuff all over the place. Find me, come say hi. We have all kinds of fun conversation. And then you can just hop into my Discord and bother me some more, because I'm all for being bothered.
And I guess if nothing else, we can say this: if COVID isn't going to kill paper magic, then nothing will. So is paper magic dying or dead? COVID can't kill it, so it's here to stay.
Yeah.